And we're live, folks. It's Tuesday, March the 28th, 2023. Get the 20 straight there. My name is J. Clifton Payne. That much I know, and this is about to be things you might not have heard. This podcast or video cast, however you're taking it down, is going to give you in the next 10, 12, 13 minutes, 8 news stories, because it's Tuesday, 8 news stories that were vetted by you, that were produced, published by various news outlets, and created by us over our news feeds on Facebook and Twitter. And we'll explain all that stuff to you, how you vote up the stories and how we pick them in just a bit after we do all the new stuff. But as your news side piece, since all the way back in 2022, we provide for you the most current events, the most latest information, the newest in politics, and some pop culture stuff as well. 8 stories at a time. Follow us on our main website, which is thisisaconversationproject.com, for more details about our full mission. And you can also remember that this is still March. If you've been with us for a day or all month long, we are trying to secure some extra funding. So if you think what we're doing is good, we'll put the hat out at the end of this and give you a chance to help us keep things going. As we said, 8 news stories for the day, vetted by you out there in the internets and curated by me for one here. These are 8 of the top 15 stories that came through over the last 30 hours. Let's get into it, shall we? Starting off with this big story right here, and it is a tragic story, not one we really wanted to deal with today, but it's what it is. This story basically skewered all of the responses for the week, so this is going to be our most likely, unless there's some updates that overdo this or something extra crazy happens, the story that's going to be the largest story, the biggest story, the most engaged story of the week. 7 dead, 3 children killed, plus shooter dead at Covenant School in Nashville on Monday. This is a very complicated story, believe it or not, but it's a lot of layers to this. Yesterday afternoon in Nashville, the Covenant School, a private Christian elementary school, a shooter came in and killed 6 people, 3 children, 3 adults, and then was eventually killed by police, I believe, or were killed eventually at the end of it. 7 totally dead. The shooter, whose name I don't have in the notes I have here, was a woman, a female who identified as trans. We believe that she actually attended the school at some point in time. She was earlier listed as a teenager. She was actually 28 years old. You can go deeper into the story and go deeper in details. This is one where we're throwing out thoughts and prayers. We're also reminding you that 10 months ago, we had Uvalde, and we just had an anniversary for Parkland, and people from the Parkland shooting and people who survived that and people, parents who had kids that died in Uvalde are essentially cursing mad at what's going on right here. Essentially, throwing out the fact that Tennessee's throwing in a lot of bills to save people from drag queens, but they're not doing anything to stop guns and gun laws. In fact, they have some of the easiest, simplest gun laws in the nation. We're going to move on from that and let you soak in that. We can discuss this in deeper forums, but that's what we have for this story. We'll have more updates. Right now, no motive has been told, but we did get a lot of details, and the shooter had a lot of details about the school and about the action that was taken. All right, more action being taken as people are a bit upset about Jonathan Majors. So upset they're calling for a change of face, and they might not be sure they want this change of face. John Boyega becomes favorite to replace Jonathan Majors as Kang amid assault scandal. Now, Jonathan Majors was arrested over the weekend for assault of a woman. His lawyers say it's a misunderstanding. It's all out of context, and Jonathan Majors will be exonerated on there. The biggest thing that came from that is, 1, people want him no longer to be Kang. 2, people want him no longer to be the face of the army. And 3, they're calling out John Boyega, who, of course, called out the Star Wars franchise for, not doing what it can for the black and colored actors, to be the next person, next colored actor, black actor, to fill in the shoes of another person. Replacements happen all the time. Yes, Terrence Howard. So Marvel can do these things, but Marvel's got 2 problems right now for this thing coming up. Number 1, no one really cares about the Marvel movies, and so the hype about bringing in a new generation, new phase, is an issue. And 2, oversaturation. Partially because no one cares about the Marvel movies and the Marvel stuff, to the point that there's a discussion on Star Wars about the Mandalorian, going off topic a bit, that you have to go know all this actual extra stuff to understand what's going on in season 3. So will this happen? And will John Boyega take the check? David Kalula is also available as well on Pure Leap. So apparently, we're replacing all the American actors with British guys who take over American actor stuff, I guess. New York PD drops all cops in uniform order as Trump grand jury gets potential witness Monday. Now, this is a story technically from Sunday. We posted it yesterday because that's when we sort of got it, understood it. There was an order for every police officer on the force to basically show up in uniform, be on duty, just wander around the streets in your uniform to put a presence on what was going to happen if there were some issues with the Trump grand jury on Monday. Trump grand jury met on Monday. They may have interviewed a witness. They may have just, played Sudoku all day. No one really knows because there was other things going on that overtook the news. And we do know that they dropped this order for all the violence. Now, one thing that Donald Trump did say, because he said stuff at his rally in Waco, was that, they probably dropped this thing already. And chances are he was probably not going to be indicted, at least not last week like expected. We'll see if something's open on that. This is one of the weaker cases, or one of the odder cases that he could be indicted on, because it is not so much illegal, but there is the backward stuff on it. Like I said, Al Capone got picked up on tax evasion. He didn't pay the right amount of taxes, and that's how they picked him up. Not the fact that he was running a crime mob and having people killed. It was because he didn't pay the government the right cut. So sometimes these things happen. However, Donald Trump, as we all know, is not Al Capone. That should be pretty obvious at this point here. Let's move on to the next story. And we're also dealing with someone that's a bit upset about how they're being treated right now. Amy Jo Johnson says she's not in Power Rangers special for personal reasons, blast money claim. The claims on Amy Jo Johnson, the original pink Power Ranger from the series that debuted literally as I was getting out of high school, is saying she doesn't want to be in Power Rangers. But the rumor has it that, she's a pretty good actress and she isn't doing a lot of the B and C level stuff that other guys are doing. So she wanted a bigger cut of money for this special. She says maybe it's not about the money. Maybe she's 52 years old and doesn't want to walk around in pink spandex for everybody to see. Maybe it's none of your beeswax why I'm not doing Power Rangers, which is fine. And because it's a throwback story where people are getting really, really tied up in their nostalgia, really, really tied up in their feelings for the old stuff. And it's coming out at a very weird time, to be honest. Of course, David Jason Frank just died a few months ago. I don't believe he's in the special as well. The original actress who played the Yellow Ranger died in a car crash fairly soon after she left the series at a young age. So she's not in the movie. I believe they're playing it as like her daughter or her niece or her family member is sort of taking over her spot. And they pulled a previous pink Power Ranger out of bubble wrap, if you will, to replace pulling Amy Jo Johnson out of bubble wrap to play the Pink Ranger. The original blue and red and black Rangers are all a part of this as they take on Rita Repulsa 2.0 or 3.0 or whatever. I have given up on watching the Power Rangers because, like I said, this is now a 30-year-old franchise, and I have other things to do going forward. I like nostalgia, I like the stuff. I'm not a memorabilia fan. I'm not really big in comics anymore because I've kind of moved on from that. And so maybe Amy Jo Johnson has moved on from Power Rangers lore and the other guys because they're really big on the convention scene and still into it, are getting something off of it. But she's saying essentially, don't worry about why she's not in Power Rangers. Just move on with it. I have as well. First Citizens buys Silicon Valley Bank after run on lender. First Citizens Bank, if you will, BANC, has bought out the majority of the branches for Silicon Valley Bank, about 90% of its assets, 90% of its locations, and about 90% of its loans as well. So as of yesterday, new signage on the old banks happening right now. Will this mean a lot to us in the grand scheme of things? To us, initially, not really, but that does keep the banking system issues in the news. Someone has bailed out, more or less, the actual facilities and many of the people working at Silicon Valley Bank for now, as a new owner is taking charge of things and going to make sure that loans don't default and people don't lose as many jobs. But what we have right now is one bank buying out another bank that unfortunately does not need two sets of bosses. So that's where things will lie. The bosses will eventually be phased out or phased into other things, maybe. And maybe, First Citizens has some folks that are going to retire or move out, and they can bring some Silicon Valley folks in to take over those spots. And most likely, the people got bought. Those bosses will be lost. You don't have to close your eyes, and you're not going to miss a thing. But Liv Tyler is back in superhero movies, coming back for Captain America 4, currently called New World Order. It stars the new cast, the new versions, the second generation for Captain America. Anthony Mackie as Black Falcon, the Falcon, Captain America, coming in to take over the mantle with the red, white, and blue Falcon suit and throwing the shield around as well. Liv Tyler returns as her character from the Hulk, Betty Ross, which means there's also the return of the character, although not the actor, playing General Thunderbolt Ross, now being played by Harrison Ford. Once played by William Hurt, who, of course, passed away a few years ago. This means there's probably going to be some gamma radiation dealing with this, and this means there's probably a very strong ability that maybe the Abomination pops up, and maybe there's the Red Hulk sort of theme line where General Ross turns into a version of the Hulk, and maybe Captain America, Sam Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson has to take him down. We shall see how that plays out. So people over last week went nuts over this AI image of Pope Francis walking around with a puffer jacket. And it fooled the internet because it was fake. And the problem is it's going to get worse. AI technology, all these images are making things harder to distinguish, especially if it's good and the person taking the time to make it takes time to work on it. Now, sidebar, one of my friends in one of my groups of follows put out this big image that they found online, and someone did an image that they worked on a bunch of AI pictures of famous people doing regular jobs, like Oprah working at a diner and Common, selling movie tickets, things like that. Those weren't the images, but they're like that. Those famous people doing stuff. Ashanti, doing a park tour, things like that. And it were good pictures of people's faces, real clear pictures of people's faces, and they're doing their things. What made it more or less easy to figure out how that they were fake images is that the AI can figure out where images go, but it's not very good at figuring out text and images. So where a person would have a badge that should have, police on it, it would be all jumbled up. So you could see that it was faked. Unfortunately, this Pope image was very good. It was just a Pope wearing a big old puffer jacket and a big old cross necklace, and it looked really good, and people went nuts, and it was fake. And finally, Netanyahu announces delay in Israel judicial overhaul plans amid huge protests. Just as it says, when a nation of people protests a thing, a righteous thing, it makes people stand back and pause. Now, when a nation of African Americans protest police brutality, people start pulling out guns. And when people start pulling out guns and storm a Capitol because they think the wrong guy won the election when it wasn't true, fortunately, we fight back. In this case, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is prime minister for maybe the fifth time, is trying to overhaul the judicial system and gather more power for himself. And it's pretty gosh darn obvious it's happening. The people in the streets aren't having it. So Netanyahu is going to delay, listen to what I'm saying, delay the judicial overhaul. He didn't say he's scrapping it. He's just saying he's holding back just a little bit longer. Let's move on to the teaser story for today. This is a story we could talk about in larger scale if you deem this one worthy, literally. So follow us on our feeds on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/this is a conversation project and Twitter.com/th_conversation. And when the story comes down the feed, you just engage it. We put a new news stories down the feeds every 50 minutes, new news stories from various different outlets all over the place. Some you may love, some you may not like so much, but there are various different takes on things. And sometimes we take what we call the wrong take and then have to sort of explain, well, Newsmax put this out here, so that's why they're saying it like this. This one is an interesting one from different views. And so we used what was more or less the more vanilla of the takes. 6 Army bases named after Confederate generals get dates for new names. We heard the story basically off of Fort Hood. Fort Hood is famous being named for a Confederate general. Now going to be named for the first Hispanic person to make the rank of general, and that's going to be awesome. I believe change is always good. It's always fine. Some folks may not like it. Some folks don't like history when they change things or they actually, update things, or sometimes they fix some things. But that's what's going to happen in this case of 6 Army bases already ready to get new names. Will we talk about this one? You tell me. Go to our website. Go to you can go to our website and get links, info on the links, but go to the links specifically for the feeds. And tomorrow we'll take the top 15 stories from the day. We'll get about 30 to 33 stories within a 30-hour span, going every 50 minutes. So we'll take the top 15 stories. We'll pluck 8 of them and put them in order so they flow. Hopefully like today's articles flowed today. We're going to talk right now about keeping us on the air, starting off with sponsor opportunities. And this is one that we put out there. I think they've been out there for a month, 3 or 4 weeks. We've had Hostage Tape as a sponsor, and we've got giggles, we've got snickers, we've got people who are saying, what the hell are you people doing over there at the Conversation Project? We're not kidnapping folks. Hostage Tape is an actual brand and an actual product, and it's just called sleep tape. Instead of putting on a breathe right strip on your nose that opens up your nose so you can softly breathe better at night, you put a piece of mesh tape that is breathable, by the way, onto your mouth, and it keeps you from opening your mouth and snoring, forcing you to breathe through your nose. And so people who have don't have serious issues with CPAP issues, whatever, can just basically keep their mouth shut, force them to breathe through the nose. Just as if you're running and you close your mouth so you breathe through your nose, forcing yourself to it. It's the same thing. Hostage tape can be used for things like running, exercise, as well as sleeping at night to hopefully save your marriage, maybe save your life. And if sleep is an issue, it could improve your health. And if your partner doesn't like you snoring, it could improve your health. Check it out at thisisaconversationproject.com/hostage tape. This is aconversationproject.com/hostage tape. Anyone who popped in on the live feed in the middle of this read is thinking, wow, this is a weird thing to have in the news. But yes, hostage tape is an actual type of product. It may actually help you with your health and your sleep. You can stop by and visit all our sponsors at the sponsors page online, but check out our main sponsor, our highlight sponsor for today, which is hostage tape. Say that 3 times fast. Now, saying much slower. This is aconversationproject.com is our home online, and you can find out more details about what we do in total at the website. We have this thing we put out every single weekday morning, Monday through Friday, with things you might not have heard. It is a video that's live. It is a video that's on replay. It is a audio podcast. There is a newsletter that has just the articles in there, so you can go straight to them. Or there's some of the fun stuff in there as well. And so you can get that, you can click and go on that end and get more details that way. There's other podcasts we do. There's other newsletters we do. There's other things we do for engagement with the conversation. The Conversation Project was created, and it's been pivoted a few times to have ways to interact with people out there in the internet world. And this is the quickest, easiest way is to ask you guys what news stories are cool, and we tell you guys what you came down with. Now, let's get to business. For this entire month, until the week is over and March is over, we are asking you to give us a grade. And to grade us is very simple to tell us if we got a good grade. If you think that we're providing for you content that is worthy of being kept up, help us keep it up. I have 2 people who are waiting to do more work to help out on this project, and I will pay them. Otherwise, I'm not going to use them and put them through that struggle. I have some more gear and a couple of software pieces I want to buy in to play around with things to make things work and look a little better here in the studio and online for you guys. They take funds. We're looking to secure $200 of reoccurring income by the end of this month. We've got a good chunk. We're doing better. We're almost there, but a few more handouts are fine. And we're looking for small things of a $5 a month pledge and not a full $200 pledge. So if we're worthy of that, go to our website at thisisaconversationproject.com, click on the partnerships link, and you can see ways that you can donate to the cause. You can do recurring donations via various apps and various things, whatever you want to do. We do not turn down money, and if there's some form up there that we can't do, that we don't have, We'll try to figure it out. We're not using Patreon because of some reasons. We're using a service called buymeacoffee.com. We also have an account for Ko-fi.com, more or less the same thing, and we could make that live. You can do recurring things like that. We slimmed it down so it didn't get so much confusing, but there's pretty much any way you want to give us money, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, we can find a way to take it. If you want to give us some money to keep things going, we thank you in advance. We also want to remind you that you can just go by our sponsors page periodically and buy from them. Those are affiliate links. We get something from those. And the most important thing is to make sure you're following us on the feed so you give us something to do. We can't do this without your input. It's that simple. Of course, all that stuff also allows us to have some fun at the end of the newsy stuff. So let's start off with today things you might have heard about with our birthdays on today. March 28th birthdays include Mr. Vince Vaughn turning 53 years old on the day. Julia Stiles, 42 years old, and Lady Gaga, who's really, really big right now as pictures are out there playing her version of Harley Quinn in the new Joker movie, which apparently has a scene where Joker's being chased by other Jokers. That's going to be a trip. She is 37 years old today. Wear a meat dress for Lady Gaga. Or not. It's your choice. Wear a meat dress if you want to wear a meat dress. You be you, boo. Going back for today in history, starting off in 1973. Today is the day that Wilt Chamberlain retired from pro basketball. He played in over 1,045 games over his 14-year span of professional basketball, played for the Lakers, played for the Philadelphia Warriors, played for a bunch of teams and kind of a chattel of things. And one thing he's also really famous for is for his, let's say, conquests. But we're not going to talk about that because we're going to go 10 years into the future to 1983 to talk about Fred Jipp, who was sentenced to 28 years in prison in Phoenix for fraud and bigamy, his conquest. In 30 years, he allegedly married 104 women in 28 countries. Now, that's not, quite the body count that Wilt Chamberlain had in just pure encounters. But 104 women, 104 marriages seems excessive, one would think. And in 1986, more than 6,000 radio stations from all formats played We Are the World simultaneously at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. This is something I remember from a good part of my childhood. Now, We Are the World was essentially the Americans' comeback after the British came out with Do They Know Their Christmas the year prior as a song to raise money for U.S. or for world hunger. And then USA for Africa, a group that was essentially built for this song, put out this song as their PSA as well. But We Are the World, which doesn't get much airplay these days. It's times have changed. Last time they actually made a big deal about it was one of the last wars that we sort of went into, and Justin Bieber redid the Michael Jackson part, and people were up in arms. But We Are the World out this day, 10:15 a.m. to be exact, in 1986. Today, March 28th. We are making a celebration, and we're bringing in all the Rick James jokes for a Weed Appreciation Day. However, it's not about Mary Jane. It's about crabgrass and dandelions and helicopters and the actual weeds that are in your yard that you can't get rid of, that are almost impossible to kill. It's about landscaping, not puffing, and passing. Celebrate weeds today. I'm not sure why we do, but we shall. And please don't get it twisted, and please don't get it mixed up. Don't celebrate the one weed when you should be celebrating the other weed. Give every weed its actual due on its day. Today, we're talking about your grass, not your grass. And finally, one more thing you might have heard. A study found that talking to your dog like you would a baby is the best way to build a good relationship with your pup. Dr. Katie Schlumko from the University of New York wanted to figure out if there was any benefit to the playful way owners talk to their dogs. Researchers rounded up 37 dogs and placed them in rooms with people saying different types of phrases and using two different types of speech. First, the dogs listened to a person talking to them in dog speak, the classic high-pitched voice, coupled with dogs direct phrases like, who's a good boy? In a separate room, people spoke to their dogs in flatter tones, coupled with adult-directed speech such as, quote, I went to the movies last night. Scientists monitor dogs. Let's do that again. Scientists monitor dogs for their attentiveness and found they chose to spend more time with those who talked in dog speak. And we're done. Tuesday, March the 28th, 2022. My name is Jay Cleveland Payne. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today, because we need you part of the show every day. But yeah, we are glad you stuck with us for this one. We are doing some things, and today we ran a little long. Oddly enough, I didn't have notes, so I went a little long in my stories, just going from memory and sidebarred way too much. But thank you for sticking up through all that today. What we're going to do going forward are some more cosmetic things, some more things you'll see, like I'm gonna press this button here and poof, I'm over here. So you're going to see some things being changed as we're working things into the process right now. We're still looking for more people, more help, more resources. So if you have it to give and want to give it, go to thisisaconversationproject.com/partnerships and help us out keeping things going. In the meantime, make sure you're going to the feeds and looking for those stories and telling us what stories are literally most engaging, so I know what stories you want me to engage with here in the actual program. We also say every day, stay hydrated, stay limber, stay on task. Stay hydrated because you got a long day to go through, a long stuff to go through. Stay limber. Don't get tightened up in the middle of work. Stay on task. Be focused on what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is important. You may not think the things you're doing mean a lot to folks, but every little moment you're on this planet means something in the positive to someone else. You need to be, you just skimming through this thing for a couple seconds and getting a view, if you will, on the internet means a lot to me. Thank you very much for that. In the meantime, let's prepare for, I guess, more me technically, but more news. We'll have more news ready for you to consume tomorrow morning, as the 8 stories that you basically said were the coolest. We'll give it to you about 5:50 in the morning here from the Conversation Project, and things you might not have heard.